Hello, everyone. I hope you've had a good week. I hope you've had a chance to practice with gratitude and do some deep body scans to help you relax. Today, I would like to share with you a practice that has radically changed my life. These are self compassion practices that Dr. Kristin Neff has developed, and they've changed my life because I have a tough inner critic, which means that when things go wrong, or when I make mistakes, or when I fail, the way I used to deal with myself was very harshly, with lots of judgment and criticism, and ruminating on what could have been better, what could have been more perfect. And that was just the way I did things most of my life, most of my adult life, actually. And then a few years ago, I really worked to be more compassionate towards myself. And in therapy, my doctor really challenged me to think about treating myself the way I would treat a good friend or a loved one if they were suffering or if they had failed or made a mistake. She asked me to consider, would I be harsh with them? Would I criticize their actions? Would I judge them? And would I make them feel bad for what they did? Or would I offer them gentle and loving compassion? This radically changed my perspective on making mistakes. And the more I learned to be compassionate and gentle with myself, especially through failures and mistakes, the more I experience gentleness and compassion for others around me. So I offer this practice to you as well, and I hope that it can change your life if you too struggle with a tough inner critic. So I want to share with you what self compassion is made up of. And this will be taken directly from the work of Kristin Neff. And in the description of the video, I will make sure to reference her website so that you could learn more about these practices if you're interested. So, Kristin Neff defines self compassion in this way. Having compassion for oneself is really no different than having compassion for others. Think about what the experience of compassion feels like. First, to have compassion for others, you must notice that they are suffering. If you ignore their suffering, you can't feel compassion for how difficult their experience is. Second, compassion involves feeling moved by others' suffering so that your heart responds to their pain. The word compassion literally means to suffer with. And when this occurs, you feel warmth, caring, and the desire to help the suffering person in some way. Having compassion also means that you offer understanding and kindness to others when they fail or make mistakes, rather than judging them harshly. Finally, when you feel compassion for another, it means that you realize that suffering, failure, and imperfection are all part of the shared human experience. So, self compassion involves acting the same way towards yourself when you are having a difficult time, when you fail, or when you notice something that you don't like about yourself. Instead of just ignoring your pain, you stop to tell yourself, this is really difficult right now, but how can I comfort and care for myself in this moment? So, I want to talk to you about what Kristin Neff describes are the three elements of self compassion. The first being self kindness versus self judgment. Self compassion entails being warm and understanding toward ourselves when we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate, rather than ignoring our pain or flagellating ourselves with self criticism. Self compassionate people recognize that being imperfect, failing, and experiencing life difficulties is inevitable. So they tend to be gentle with themselves when confronted with painful experiences, rather than getting angry when life falls short of set ideals. The second element of self compassion is common humanity versus isolation. Frustration at not having things exactly as we want is often accompanied by an irrational but pervasive sense of isolation, as if I were the only person suffering or making mistakes. All humans suffer. The very definition of being human means that one is mortal, vulnerable, and imperfect. Therefore, self compassion involves recognizing that suffering and personal inadequacy is part of the shared human experience, something that we all go through, rather than being something that happens to me alone. And the third and final element of self compassion, as Dr. Kristin Neff describes, is mindfulness over versus over identification. Self compassion also requires taking a balanced approach to our negative emotions so that feelings are neither suppressed nor exaggerated. This stems from the process of relating personal experiences to those of others who are also suffering, thus, helping to put our own situation into a larger perspective. So what I'm going to do is provide some links to some guided self-compassion meditations that are led by Dr. Kristin Neff, and I'll provide those links in the description of this video. There's one that's very short. It's a 5-minute self-compassion break that you can access whenever you're struggling with your tough inner critic, when you are feeling the impulse or temptation to be hard on yourself. You can access this 5-minute guided meditation to help shift your mindset so that you can be gentle to yourself, just like you would to a good friend. I will also post a longer guided meditation on self compassion, again, led by Kristin Neff, that's about 20 minutes long. And I hope that you will be able to engage with these guided meditations in the coming week, and that it will be life giving and centering for you. May love, light, and peace guide your way today and always. Take good care.